Today we're going to be talking about what you should consider if you're thinking about buying a condo or a co-op, basically an apartment. So I was talking to my son about this just the other day. My son's big dream is when he gets out of college, he wants to move to New York and he wants to buy a condo. And I said, don't do it. Don't do it. Get a new dream. I said, don't do it. And you guys are probably going, wait, what? Yeah. I said don't do it, and we're going to talk about why. So first of all, if you're new to the channel, I am a mortgage lender licensed in 48 states. My team's one of the top purchase teams in the country. All we do is talk to buyers every single day. I love it. You know, we talk about the good, we talk about the bad, we do refinances. We're always looking at the way money is being spent. And that is the thing that I think everybody needs to consider if they're looking at a condo or a co-op, you know, something with an HOA that has a lot of control. Sometimes people will go, well, I can't afford anything else. Here's the thing, you may not be able to afford that. So let's talk about why I was telling my son to rethink his dream, so that you guys have the same benefit of having a mother that's been doing this for 17 years. Here we go, we're gonna do Mama Jen style. No one thinks about this, HOAs, okay? So let's say you're looking at a condo and you're like, okay, the condo's $400,000, and the HOAs are $500 a month, I can afford this, okay? Great, so here's something you guys need to know. HOAs can go up, it's not up to you. You have zero say in the HOAs going up. Unless you get on the board, unless you have a bunch of power on that board, you have no control. People are always stunned when I say this. They're like, wait, what? So I can buy a condo and the HOA can just increase the dues and I have no right and no say? Yep, 100%. 100%. And then people go, well, how much can they increase? Whatever they want, guys, whatever they want. We're seeing this right now in Florida, and yeah, we're gonna talk about that in a second. So yeah, they can increase the HOAs as much as they want. HOAs are not as regulated as they should be. Like, honestly, what needs to happen is some severe regulation into HOAs, and we're starting to see some of it because of the Surfside collapse, but there's a lot of shenanigans going on behind the scenes. So here's the thing. When you're buying an apartment, you're not just buying your unit. You are now responsible for the common areas, right? If it has a gym, guess what? That gym's gonna need new equipment in a few years. If it has a doorman, your HOA dues are going to the salary. If it has a roof deck, great. If it has none of that, it's still going towards insurance and it's going towards the maintenance of the building, okay? What we're seeing in Florida right now is we're seeing a ton of condos where the HOA was not increasing dues as they should. You know, insurance was going up, buildings are getting older, buildings need repair. It was always, well, we'll do it tomorrow. We'll do it next year. We don't want to raise the dues because it's hard for owners. We'll do it next year. We'll do it next year. Guess what? Next year, 10 years later, is a hell of a lot more expensive than it is next year. And that's the problem. The problem is that you've got these HOAs where the people who are elected, they may have absolutely no experience with money, maintenance, or how to run a business. But they're suddenly running a business where your wallet just has to open whenever the business needs money. I can't stress that enough. When you have a condo, when you have a co-op, when you have a townhome that has an HOA, any of these, you do not control your wallet, period. Now look, someone's gonna say, well, I don't control property taxes or insurance either. That's true, you don't. But here's the thing, you don't see insurance go from like $500 a month to $2,000 a month, in most cases, right? You know, and that's what we see a lot of, is we'll see HOA dues jump. And the reason they're jumping is because there's something critical that has to happen. You know, a roof has to be replaced. You know, the walls are caving in, whatever it is, there's a leak, you know, something's happening, so these dues are jumping, and you as a homeowner, you don't have a say. You don't have a say. You can't go back and go, well, you guys have managed this like, you know, terribly for 20 years. Why am I paying the price? Doesn't matter, it's your responsibility now. It's your responsibility. And I've seen this go sideways in so many different ways, which is why when I was talking to my son, I was like, you gotta really be pretty wealthy to not be worried about that. Like, as a first-time home buyer, would I be comfortable with that? No. Personally, would I ever buy a condo or co-op again? No. I've been there, done that. Have one, pay the price. No. Because here's the other thing that you guys don't recognize. So beyond being able to increase your dues, right, they can also do what's known as a special assessment. So let's say, for instance, you buy in a building, you can afford the dues, everything's great, but the elevators are 20 years old and the elevators need to be replaced. And guess what? Those dues are so low, they haven't been collecting for new elevators, but the elevators are broken and they have to. Well, guess what? They can do what's known as a special assessment. So I was talking to someone about a building in Florida recently where every single unit owner got hit with a special assessment of $100,000. What? And I always hear those numbers and I'm like, who the hell can pay that? There'll be some people that maybe they have some savings, but in that building in particular, like a couple of years ago, it was nowhere near as expensive as it is. And I'm thinking about all those people, especially like retirees, they didn't budget for this. Social Security isn't going up for stuff like this. Pensions aren't going up. So unless you're wealthy, how are you supposed to afford this? And sometimes buildings will take out loans to cover the work. And, there's stuff that can be done. But there's also situations where if the homeowner can't pay the special assessment, the HOA can foreclose on them. You can lose your house to the HOA. Seriously, same thing with dues. If they decide to increase the dues and you're like, screw it, I'm not paying for this, they can foreclose on you. Many of them can. So you want to make sure you understand the terms of the HOA whenever you're looking at one. And then if you're like, well, Jen, if I do a newer building, I'm safe. For how long? Also, you're not. So another fun Florida story, I know I'm giving them all to you, and look, this is not unique to Florida. I'll throw in a New York nightmare, personal, but I was talking to this gal recently, a real estate agent, and she was telling me about this building, and we were talking about their budget, and it's a very nice building. And lo and behold, they have 2 real estate agents that were just nominated to their board, their HOA board. And we were talking about the budget, and one of the things on the budget is $1 million a year for parties. Parties. And I'm like, what? What's going on? And the gal who was telling me, she's like, oh, you'll love this. So they got this budget because they want to take the owners on yacht cruises and all these events. And I'm like, those are real estate client events. She's like, yeah, and they're getting them to pay for it. And they have no idea. And I'm like, wow, that is so messed up. And that's the thing, is that this is the type of stuff that can occur. And you're like, well, this is crazy, Jen. How is this legal? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. The more I learn, the more I see, I'm just like, really? No one's regulating this? Really? And then sometimes you have it where maybe there's an HOA, and you always hear the stories about the HOA where they're doing some level of work and it's their cousin and they're getting kickbacks. There's a lot of that. But there's also management companies doing the same thing. Sometimes an HOA will hire a management company and they're excellent and they manage the books and they make sure everything's good, right? And you're like, oh, well, if I find that, I'm safe. Sure, as long as that HOA is in power and that management company is paid for, right? All it takes is a new board and suddenly they could decide that's too expensive and they want to pay their cousin Vinny to redo the driveway for $450,000, right? That's the thing, people change. So whenever I'm thinking about a condo, that's always what I'm talking to clients about is hey, you have to understand the dues can go up. You have to understand there can be special assessments. I've had some clients where we've talked about this and they've gone and they've talked to the HOA, which I recommend. I recommend that even if the lender's not asking for it, you're getting the HOA meeting board notes because that tells you what's coming down the pipe, right? If you're buying a place, they're not going to say, hey, the roof has to be replaced unless they already have a bid, unless it's already come out to everybody in the HOA that's happening. But if you look at those meeting notes, you can see stuff like, hey, we've got a problem, we need to start doing bids, blah, 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 and that can tell you an assessment's coming. The way I would think about all of this, though, is I want you guys to think about your friend that is just the worst with money, just the worst. You know, someone where you're like, God, I wouldn't trust them to buy us 2 ice creams, they'd screw it up. That person could be running your HOA. That person could be making decisions about how your money is spent now and how your money is spent in the future. That person could be doing yacht parties. That person, here's a fun one, true story, New York, co-op. HOA, the board is filled with people that don't know how to do math. At once upon a time, their prior management company actually embezzled money from them and almost bankrupted them. Horrible story. Anyways, roof repair brought it to their attention 7 years ago. 7 years ago to repair the issue, right? Like the roof needed to be replaced. 7 years ago to repair it would have cost a hell of a lot less than it costs now. But guess what? They thought, well, we don't want to raise dues, you know, next year, next year, next year. And here's the thing, if you've got an HOA that's not doing the maintenance on the building to keep it in good condition, all this next year does is make it so that when it happens, it costs you 20 times more, okay? So really something to be aware of if you're looking at condos, co-ops, you know, some townhouses, is you're not just buying your unit, you need to go explore the building. And I didn't know that until I ended up in a bad situation with a co-op where, you know, the unit we bought was gorgeous. It was beautiful. It was our dream. Should have paid attention to the building. The building had so much deferred maintenance. You know, we were like, oh my God, the dues are so low. Oh gosh, you know, I often think that that purchase happened so that I could educate you guys so it doesn't happen to you. That's what I tell myself. I still have the property. Total nightmare. It's been a nonstop nightmare. And guess what? Everything with that building was push, 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 push until the bill came due, and now there's big assessments because of it. And, you know, if you have the money to take the risk, fantastic. Look, apartments are beautiful. Condos can be beautiful. It can be a great life. But I also think about a lot of people right now who maybe they bought 15, 20 years ago, the dues have been kept really low, the buildings are falling apart around them, and they're about to lose their homes because of an assessment. You know, they don't have the retirement income to support this. So definitely eyes wide open. You know, make sure you're paying attention to the HOA, make sure you're looking at the building notes. If they're using a property manager, make sure it's a good one, because here's the thing too. Sometimes the property managers are the problem. You could have a good HOA board, but you may have a total swindler as a property manager. So I hope there's more legislation coming. If anybody's watching this from the CFPB, the DOJ, the FBI, I don't know, anyone who can help, I am happy to tell you all the way this is hurting homeowners and what needs to be put in place so that this stops. So thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I hope that if you're looking at a condo, co-op, apartment, townhome, that this just gives you a little bit more food for thought. That person that's terrible with money, would you want them having access to your wallet? Thanks for watching.